going on, guys? Welcome back to Kyle's Gaming. It's your boy Colin. Today, guys, I am going to be doing something completely different. Today, I am going to be giving my honest opinion and review on Destiny 2. Now, I know it's not a new game, and it's probably been done like 100 times by 100 other YouTubers, but since this is my first time trying out this format and doing a review, I figured I would just go ahead and go with something that, you know, it's not new, that I don't know about it and that I haven't played it or anything. I'm not going to do like Maid of Sker or anything like that just yet. So I figured Destiny 2 would be a really good place in order to start, and if it ends up working out, awesome. And if not, then oh well. So the way this is going to work is we are going to be looking at 5 different categories. We got the campaign and story mode, side quests and side missions, graphics and gameplay, online play, and the ranking system. And I will award each category an amount of points based on how many I think it deserves, which will be somewhere between 1 and 5. Therefore, the maximum number of points possible is going to be 25 points, meaning that this game is the best of the best. Hell no it ain't. Each section is going to get hopefully no more than 5 minutes of talk time, so just sit back, relax, and try not to hate me for this one. So starting off with the campaign and story mode, I figured we would start out with this one, which is probably going to take the longest and probably upset you guys the most. Now, if I happen to get anything wrong at any point in this video, please just let me know down in the comments, and please accept my upfront apology about that. Okay, so the reason that I'm asking don't hate me about this is because I honestly feel this is the weakest part of the game as a whole. I mean, does anybody else feel that if they or anyone else is talking about Destiny 2, no one ever says, boy, I really enjoyed that campaign, or I love the story, or crap like that? I mean, you know, things that just make the person they're talking to say, what campaign or story mode? Or, I forgot there even was one. So here's my problem with it. Destiny 1's campaign was straightforward in showing you where to go and what to do, as it sort of had a path so that you knew where the next mission was. It was like, okay, so here we are on Earth, now here's where you're going to go first. Now click this button to begin the campaign mission. Okay, now we're going to go over here and we're going to do this mission. Okay, now we're going to go over here. What's that? You've completed this planet? Well, now you're high enough rank to move on to this planet, which was locked before due to you being a low rank. So basically, each planet is based on how difficult the enemies are and how high of a level or rank you need to be in order to, you know, not die all the time. The campaign of Destiny 2 doesn't really have a clear path, and even if there is one, who cares? There's not much of a compelling story for this section to really even exist. And even the missions themselves feel like everything else in the game, like the adventures and the patrols and everything else. Which, believe me, I'm going to go more in depth with those in the next section. But my main point here is that the campaign honestly feels like a never-ending shooting gallery, basically, with a cutscene added every now and again to kind of remind you, oh hey, by the way, just in case you forgot, this is a campaign, not a side quest. And any game that has to remind you using cutscenes is really just not deserving of anything higher than a 1 out of 5. And honestly, the only other thing I can say about this is that if Destiny 2 had just gone ahead and left this out, yeah, I would have been shocked because it wouldn't be continuing the story of the first game, but I mean, I'd still be happy with the game because the first story really wasn't very memorable either. But I mean, at least it was clear where you were going and what you were doing. And Destiny 2 just could not do that for me. Alright, so now that that is out of the way, we're going to be moving on to the side quests and or side missions. Now this, I will say, does add a lot of fun and different experiences depending on what the adventure and the patrol is. However, the patrols themselves are usually rather boring, with some of them you're literally told to go to the top of a building, survey the beautiful landscape, let out a couple of oohs and ahs before laying out one loud oh shit, realizing that you're being shot at and bombarded by enemies, and you kill them just before the game congratulates you on looking at the pretty little flowers and butterflies and not dying while trying to accomplish this. Adventures are sort of like side quests or little missions, and you can complete in order to finish a visit this planet type of quest or just for kicks. One of my personal favorites of these types of things is honestly the Lost Sectors. but only the parts where you go like deep inside the lost sector and kill the weaker enemies, then kill the one big one and loot their chest. But the process of actually finding the entrance sometimes can be really difficult, as I myself only have been on one planet that has used the lost sector symbol to show you that you have found the entrance, but perhaps the best of all of these, that is my second favorite, is the public events. Now, these are fun to do either with a friend or just a large group of people that happen to be there within the same general area as you. The only downside of this is that there are plenty of times where all I have to do is walk into an area where a public event is already happening and it'll say, "Joined public event!" Like I somehow didn't even have a choice in the matter. But most of the time, people even really do them is due to quests that require you to do a certain number of these specific tasks. And sure, there are those people that enjoy doing them for fun, as I do with the Lost Sectors, and yes, they do give you gear and weapons that are better than before, so does every other damn quest or mission in the game. But more on that later. As for this section, I must give it a 3.5 out of 5. Now, the public events in the Lost Sectors are entertaining, and well, there's just a lot of the same thing when it comes to Lost Sectors adventures, and especially the patrols, making them essentially the same thing every time, just with a new coat of paint due to being on a different planet. The only other difference is what you actually do in the adventures and patrols, as well as the enemies you face, but on the other hand, they do add something to do besides a campaign and a multiplayer, and act as a good and relatively quick way to gain experience points and upgrades like weapons and armor. So it's good, but it could definitely use some improvements. So now moving on to graphics and gameplay. Now this one I won't spend as much time on, as there's not really a lot to talk about. The graphics are about the same as the original, but with a fresh coat of paint, which really is not a bad thing, believe me. The graphics of the original were great, and the landscape was bright and beautiful and colorful, but still dark and gloomy in the areas of the Thrall. Destiny 2 continued this by giving the same colors and beauty as the original, just making it look better using current gen graphics. The gameplay itself is really well done, and the AI are smart and powerful, and honestly they're not dumb and weak. I mean, believe me, there are plenty of games where the AI needs to be taken by the hand before crossing the street because they're not smart enough to look both ways and use the button on the side of the lamppost. With many areas to explore and weapons to gain, there's a lot to obtain and reasons to explore the vast galaxy. Now the number one thing where I think it really shines is the Guardian selection at the main screen, allowing you 3 game slots so you can try out all 3 classes and see which one suits you best. Now this is great for both returning players as well as newcomers. For returning players, it allows them to choose which of their Guardians they think is best and focus their attention on just that one, but with newcomers it allows them to try out each individual class, get a feel for their weapons and powers. Now the one problem is that honestly, sometimes it feels like there's classes that are better than others. Like the Warlock is the most powerful and the best, then you have the Hunter and then the Titan, and it all just depends on how good you are and how you use them. Now for example, one of the problems I have with the Titan class is more specifically towards Destiny 1, in which the supercharge where the Titan smashes the ground like the Hulk, then you jump in the air for a few seconds to kind of charge it up, and then hit the ground leaving them vulnerable to attack from enemies, and it only affects the enemies in a given area where you use the Hulk smash. Now in Destiny 2, it did get a bit better, and I do feel that there are a lot of these different powers that are overpowered above others, such as like with the Titan. I honestly feel that the one big sledgehammer is a lot more powerful than where you take one small fiery hammer and throw them at people. Know what I mean? So it's almost like with each different Guardian, there are specific powers within each class that are more powerful than other powers in that class, as well as Warlock being better than Hunter and Hunter being better than Titan and stuff like that. Now, in my honest opinion, I gotta give it a 4.5 out of 5. It's almost perfect, and yet it still manages to be just below perfection. And believe me, this part of the game is awesome, but it could just use that one little improvement of maybe making all of the different classes equal and really having it more rely on how the user uses that Titan. Or Guardian, I mean. So here we are at online play. Now honestly, I've rather been waiting for us to get to this one because it's the closest I will get to sort of a ranking list. So there are 3 online options for being able to play with teammates. There's Vanguard Strikes, Crucible, and Gambit. And you honestly want to know what's kind of funny about that? The way that I just listed them right there is honestly the way that I would rank them if I was doing like a top 3. The Vanguard Strikes are fun and they're difficult when going in alone and rather challenging but not near impossible when doing it with a team. There's also no competition other than maybe who got the most kills, least amount of deaths, and better loot. Crucible is honestly different as it is much more competitive and is player versus player. Now my one big problem with Crucible here is that there are barely any game modes here. I mean, I honestly feel like Destiny 1 had more game modes than this, only they hid them beneath DLC. It's like, okay, here's my money, Bungie, for the Destiny 1 DLC, now give me my online game modes. And then 3 years later, what's that? They're free now? Bungie, you must be shitting me! No, really, you've got to be shitting me. You made them free, but you only added in about 8 game modes, and some of them are essentially the same thing. Over here is Control, but over here is a mix of Control, Free-for-all, and Deathmatch. Although then again, I've always kind of heard that less is more, and honestly, I would have to say that that is true here. Now I know this makes it sound like I'm contradicting myself, but just kind of hear me out. Well, I wish there was a way that there could have been more game modes. The ones here are enough to keep you engaged, and it's not like you're going to see a search and destroy or something on Destiny. Besides, the game modes are actually quite fun. They're quick, and the only problem is with you, your skill level, and how much fun you can have playing this game. And using different weapons and different character supercharges are actually quite enjoyable to see how it works with people. Now my personal favorite is the one that I'm using on my Titan where I conjure up Mjolnir, but instead of lightning it's on fire, and I throw it at the baddies and they explode and turn to a pile of ashes. The only other online game to talk about here is Gambit. Now Gambit is honestly my least favorite, but of all the 3, it's definitely not terrible by any means. Gambit pits 2 teams of 4 against each other where you kill small baddies for 1 or 2 modes, big baddies for many modes, and once you have about 75 in total on your team, deposit them into the bank, you can conjure up a really big baddie that you have to kill, and all of this has to be done before your opponents or else you lose that round. If you lose the next round, then it's game over, so it's best 2 out of 3, meaning you could very well end up spending most of your 2 hours a day playing only 3 or 4 Gambit matches. Now this is obviously the most competitive of the 3 online games, and well, my biggest problem here with this category is the lack of game modes in Crucible, as well as the huge competitiveness of Gambit. Now I just want to kill enemies and get great loot after doing so if you're like me, then try out the Vanguard Strikes. Now this section I honestly have to give a 4 out of 5. I mean, in my opinion, things I just think are wrong with these game modes are really more just nitpicky than anything else. Plus the only other reason I don't like them is because I'm really not as skilled as the people that I'm playing against, and that's on me. And finally, we have reached the ranking system. Now the ranking system is flawed, let's just go ahead and put that out of the way. If you're looking for reasons that I need as to why, well then look no further than up my ass and to the left. No, but seriously, it's pretty bad. Whereas Destiny 1 allowed you to just keep on ranking up and gain engrams and everything on a semi-regular basis, you really only acquired these after defeating tough enemies, completing missions, or winning the Crucible. Now in Destiny 2, all you have to do is kill a bunch of the small baddies, open a chest, lose a Crucible match, and you still get some loot. The biggest problem here is that the power rank tops out at just 1,000. Well, actually just past 1,000 really, meaning you now have to get an upgrade module and enhancement course to go through all this extra work after going through the work of obtaining these and going through the work of making it to 1,000 in the first place. And it's not exactly like it's fair when you're playing with people who are so much higher ranked than you are, when you're starting out at 750 power going up against people who are like over 300 power or higher. And I like to call this unfair disadvantage playing with my Xbox friends. I wish there was a specifically ranked playlist where the game pits those that are in the 700s against each other, and same with the 800s, 900s, and the people in the 1000s. This would definitely make it a lot easier for those that are just trying to figure out where they're supposed to go after the next campaign mission and accidentally think of Crucible and Gambit as being the next planet. Not to mention the fact that it took me personally less than a month to get myself over 200 points higher than when I started out. It's like I went to the bank with a $100 bill, told the teller, hey, I need like 1,000 quarters here, then take my giant sack of change to every gumball machine in town. It was so quick, and now all I have to do is this boring work to keep ranking up as opposed to just killing more enemies. You know, the reason I play this game in the first place, I don't have any incentive to go through with it and would very much rather just take my chances with enemies that are only 50 points or so ahead of me instead of taking those that are in the hundreds. This one I honestly have to give a 2.5 out of 5 for the cutoff at 1,000 and for how quick and easy it is to make it to that cutoff. Maybe if they just slowed down on how often you get the drops and didn't let the power suddenly stop growing, then they would have made it higher. Now, finishing off with a score of 15.5 out of 25, we see that Destiny 2 has scored a 62% on the Giles Gaming Studios rating scale, or the KGSRS. Now, do I think that Destiny 2 deserves an 80 plus rating on Metacritic, IGN, and GameSpot? Honestly, not in my own personal opinion, but don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that I'm 100% correct about everything, and it's just what I think are some of the problems with it and what I would rate it myself. But this by no means that it is 100% a bad or terrible game in any way, shape, or form. Well guys, that's gonna do it for me on this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed this kind of new style of video and everything, and hopefully it ends up going really well and I can end up doing this for a lot more of the games that I'm going to be playing, which believe me are definitely going to be games that are of like this time. Like I've said before, as soon as I get finished with Maid of Sker, I will begin on my review of that game. But you know, like I said, I kind of wanted to do this as sort of like a trial video and see how it would end up working. If it doesn't work out, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna talk about Maid of Sker, nothing. I'm basically just gonna end the game right there and not even do any sort of any review. Damn, I cannot talk anymore, so I should probably just go ahead and wrap this up. Hope you guys really enjoyed this video. If you did enjoy this video, do not forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for new videos posted on a regular basis. Oh, and definitely be sure to hit the notification bell in the corner so you can stay up to date with all my new content when it comes out. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and I will be seeing you all next time.